The Galapagos Islands are filled with amazing life both on land and in the sea. There are so many things to do here, from snorkeling with sea turtles, sharks, rays, and tropical fish, to hiking up to viewpoints and through lava fields.
But the Galapagos are also very expensive, have a lot of regulations, and take a really long time to get to.
So is all the wildlife and scenery worth the time and expense?
Chris and I travel the world full time. We're usually pretty financially conservative with our travels, but this month we're breaking all the rules here in the Galapagos. We rented an apartment for the month in Puerto Ayora, which is the biggest town in the Galapagos with a population of 20,000, and took day trips from here. We also did a 4-day, 3-night adventure on the rugged Isabella Island. This is what our experience was, what we learned about booking tours and how the system works, and if we would recommend a trip here. If you've been to the Galapagos or you're thinking about going, please let us know your thoughts and recommendations in the comments.
There are lots of ways to see the Galapagos.
Liveaboard boats are a very popular way to go, as you get to see lots of different islands, but we decided against them because they are very expensive.
And as full-time travelers, we like to live somewhere for a month and really get to know the area.
So we rented an apartment in Puerto Ayora on Santa Cruz Island. The apartment was clean and modern, but small and sparse. And the seating could be more comfortable. And for that, we paid almost $2,000 for the month. And our usual budget in other parts of the world is a max of about $1,500.
So, we already broke our rental budget.
Getting here was also a big expense and required several flights. We already did an entire video on flying here. So check out our channel for more info on that. But you definitely need to take a few extra travel days to get out here.
Now let's talk about actually being on the Galapagos Islands.
There's a lot of wildlife to see here. Without even leaving the town of Puerto Ayora, you can see tons of sea lions and marine iguanas. And by walking on the pier, you can see sharks, rays, and sea turtles. Tortuga Bay, which is one of the best beaches we've ever been to, is walkable from Puerto Ayora and has hundreds of marine iguanas, which exist only in the Galapagos, and plenty of birds too. And on a short drive to the Santa Cruz Highlands, you'll see the very cool Galapagos giant tortoises, some of which are over 100 years old.
If you go snorkeling, you'll be able to see all the sea lions, sharks, rays, and sea turtles I previously mentioned up close, along with lots of beautiful and brightly colored tropical fish. There was one snorkel spot we went to that had sea turtles everywhere we looked.
By going on hikes, you'll also see plenty of birds, including the famous blue-footed booby and beautiful pink flamingos, depending on the island.
So now that you're dreaming about all the amazing wildlife and scenery that you'll see here, there's an important thing to know.
Much of it is in restricted areas, and you can only see it if you're on a tour.
Yes, you can definitely see some of it on your own.
But to really experience the Galapagos, you must go with a guide.
Em and I typically like to explore on our own.
So going with a guide isn't something we love to do.
The guides are great, and you can learn a lot from them.
But you also have to stick with them and follow their schedule.
In other places in the world where we've snorkeled, you can just jump off the boat and snorkel wherever you want. But in the Galapagos, you have to follow your guide.
Some guides are more lenient than others on how close you need to stay. But for us, it was difficult to relax and enjoy the snorkel when we always had to follow the guide and stay in the group.
The same is true for many of the hikes.
You're required to stick with your group and follow your guide. There's a bit of room for you to go at your own pace, but in the end, you need to stay on your guide's schedule.
And of course, going with guides adds to the cost of the excursion.
Which brings us to the next thing we want to share with you about the Galapagos, which can help save you some money. What's the best way to book a tour? All the tours are pretty expensive. The cheapest ones start at about $40, but the longer snorkel day trips can run over $200 per person. And remember that pretty much any time you want to explore the Galapagos Islands, you have to be on a tour. So this can be a daily expense when you're staying there.
So how can you save a bit of money?
Book in person, not online. Online booking platforms might cost 4 times higher than the price in town. You heard me right? 4 times higher. For example, a volcano hike on Isabella should run about $40 per person, but some online platforms will charge over $180 per person. Here's how it works. There are about 3 to 6 tour operators that will run a particular tour on a particular day. They will all take you to the same place for the same experience, the same duration, the same group size, and have a Galapagos certified guide.
It's easiest to book tours through an agent. They'll call the operators for you and do all the communication.
There are agents with booths all over the local towns that can help you do this.
Most of the agents take around the same commission. The main difference in price comes with the size and quality of the boat.
So you can shop around a bit based on your budget. The online agents will take a much bigger commission and you won't even know what boat you're on.
So for example, if you want to do a snorkel tour on Santa Fe for the day, you should be paying somewhere between $110 and $140 per person, depending on the boat, if you book with an agent in Puerto Ayora. But if you book online, you might spend over $300 for the same tour.
Be wary of getting hotels to do the booking for you.
One of the most popular tours in the Galapagos is Los Tunneles, or the Tunnels, on Isabela Island. This tour should run you somewhere between $100 and $120, but we talked to one person who paid $190 when they booked through their hotel.
They were on the exact same tour as us, so make sure you shop around when you go to book a tour.
Another thing to know about the Galapagos Islands and the tours here are that the safety standards might not be the same as what you're used to back home. These are a few things we've noticed. You can rent bikes here, but helmets, they're pretty much non-existent. We were picked up by one tour operator where our seat was in the back of the bed of a pickup truck. Another time we rode for 45 minutes at high speeds in the back of a wooden bus of sorts, with totally open sides and bench seats. Life jackets are only required when the military is watching. Otherwise, the tour operators don't care if you use them. A few months ago, there was a tourist boating accident that happened here. There were no life jackets on board and several tourists died. Now, life jackets are required on all the boats, but it's only enforced when the military is watching.
Moving on, let's talk about the sun.
The Galapagos Islands are right on the equator, and the UV radiation from the sun here is extreme.
Keeping up with putting on sunscreen can be a challenge here, especially when you're in and out of the water.
So the best thing to do is to cover up, way more than you think is necessary, and way more than I am right now. I started out just wearing a rash guard and bikini bottom when snorkeling. I put on, and then put on again, and then put on some more. I put on lots of sunblock, but it still wasn't enough, and I got my legs and my bum all burned. After my first snorkeling trip, I either wore a full wetsuit or went snorkeling in my yoga pants and rash guard. And if you look at the guides, you'll see that they all know this, and they wear lots of sun protective clothing in the water. So cover up. The sun on the equator is no joke.
Because you're on a relatively remote island, goods can be hard to come by.
Fresh fruits and vegetables are not always available. Sunscreen is very expensive and the choice is limited. And even your favorite beverage might not be available.
So come to the island with a plan to be flexible on how you're going to eat and what you're going to buy.
And just because you find a product available one day doesn't mean it'll be there the next.
During our first week here, I fell in love with this low-sugar orange drink. And then after that, I was never able to find it again.
Also keep in mind that products can often cost triple what they cost on the mainland.
The Galapagos Islands are expensive, they're hard to get to, most places need to be toured with a guide, and the safety standards aren't super high. So are they worth visiting?
The marine life, land animals, and scenery are spectacular. And it's the birthplace of Darwin's theory of evolution, which is pretty cool.
We're very glad we came, and we definitely think it's worth coming once in your life, if you can afford it and you have the time.
We would recommend a shorter stay and focusing your money spent in the Galapagos on tours, instead of on accommodations and food. So you really get to experience what the Galapagos have to offer. We saved some money by renting our apartment for a full month, but it was only a 20% discount. And sometimes we can get closer to a 50% discount when we book for long-term in other places. You can't get a discount on food by staying longer though, so every day you're here costs a little bit more.
If we had to do it again, we'd probably have stayed in Mexico an extra few weeks and then cut our time in the Galapagos from 4 weeks down to 2.
If you're packing a bunch of tours into a short time, keep in mind that they can be very tiring.
A full day of snorkeling and riding on a boat or doing a 16-kilometer, 10-mile hike over a volcano in the hot sun can be very draining. So you need to plan for some time to rest.
We can't speak to the multi-day live-aboard cruises, but we heard from some people that they are fantastic. The only thing is that they'll run you about $1,000 per day per person.
Overall, the Galapagos offer a unique experience with animals you won't find anywhere else in the world, and some amazing opportunities for snorkeling and pristine beaches. But we recommend keeping your visit short and watching your budget. Let us know if you agree or not in the comments. Thanks for watching our video, and we'll see you in the next one.